You can have an idea, you can have a concept, but you really don't know it until you do it. The language was invented to communicate, not to masturbate. For instance, communicating with emojis. Monkeys can do it. You probably stolen like millions of patents before you were even 5 years old. Did you ever pay basically the authorship rights for the pencil you're gonna draw the sketch with? To be greedy, it was a holy sin at that time, you know. Now, that's the name of the game. If you walk down the street and somebody tells you're an idiot, if you don't believe it yourself, you're not going to be insulted because it's just somebody's opinion. I just want to be part of something I believe in. If you don't find it, then you have to create it. Why company? You know, why don't just get employed somebody? Like my mother's question. You know, these are important questions, you know, and if you don't know the answer, then you probably shouldn't do it.
We could talk about women, for example, and we would say what is
or men. So
yes. So we are.
It's funny how we find different women beautiful, and it's also funny how it's not just the way they look.
It's actually a nice question.
Well, definitely not an easy one because I don't have an answer. You have people who do everything so they can have a certain lifestyle, and then there are people who actually have lifestyle so they can do everything.
We will start with the questionnaire.
Opa.
First question. What is your favorite place?
Favorite place? Forest.
What is a place that makes you uncomfortable?
Blind date, probably.
Okay, that's valid.
In any kind of small, not just like dates with a classical thing, but basically the places where you actually just feel you're forced basically to behave in a specific way.
What turns you on creatively, spiritually, or emotionally?
Contradictions, probably, in general. So things out of place, different opinions, and inspiration-wise, basically, is stories of people.
What turns you off?
Limits, probably.
What sound or noise do you love?
Industry, for instance, forests, all the sounds that I don't have, that are the consequence of something that I'm not influenced, that I cannot influence, something that is just there. And maybe this would be interesting one. Probably the most complex sound there is like cities, you know. And like because you have a mix of nature, you know, like wind or whatever, and traffic and complexity of it. It's interesting.
What sound or noise do you hate?
The chalk on the board.
Chalk on the board.
Yeah.
But nowadays they don't exist anymore.
Yeah,
almost, they are extinct.
I think one sound would be super scary, and actually silence. I don't believe I ever encountered it, but I can imagine that this has to be basically scary.
Okay. What superpower would you like to have?
Time machine would be quite cool.
So time manipulation.
Not manipulation, but going back, doing the same thing once and again. You know, I don't want to know my future, so I would use it on past, basically, probably.
What do you fear losing the most?
Probably the most frustrating would be in my life to be able to move.
So movement.
To move.
Yeah.
You know, so basically to be stuck in your head, basically not be... You see this, I have a toddler now, you know, and you can see the frustration many times is just, look, I don't want to be here, I want to go somewhere else, you know. Okay, the usual ones are eating shitty pants and I'm hungry, you know, but this fact, you know, that you want to move and you don't like it here and you cannot, you know, that has to be horrible, that has to be scary.
What do you consider your greatest achievement?
My greatest achievement? I don't know. You're doing it every day, we're trying to get there, and I think actually I wouldn't like to lose the craving for more, you know, and the achievement it would be to stay like that, you know, that actually that I don't get numb.
So, the last question.
Yeah.
If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Get back, you didn't finish yet. Go and do it. But if it's actually if there's one-way street and you have to go in and you're in and you cannot get out and God's saying what, it's like I would like him to be annoyed.
Okay.
You know, it's like Can you imagine the heaven? It's like what sitting on a cloud, looking into to the horizon for the rest of your existence. This is hell for me, not heaven.
Yeah.
Being comfortable, being this is hell. Being basically satisfied always, whatever. That's hell. So I don't know. It's kind of correlates, for instance, with metrics when you want to do a perfect environment for the people you do. I don't know the year. I don't know which year they did, 86 or something, with all the pluses and the minuses. It's not just. But for me, basically, the vision of heaven being something perfect is scary.
No.
And I actually don't understand why people need this motivation that after something, everything is gonna be okay.
So this is it already for you?
I don't know. It is not. It is or it isn't. But I'm okay. If this is it, no problem. Actually, the snake bit me when I was like 21, 22, and I thought I'm actually gonna die because we were in the middle of nowhere and my legs were going numb and everything, And I was sitting in a red Yugo, looking to the stars in the evening, and I was like, okay, that's it. It's kind of cool. It wasn't so bad. Yeah, and it's like, interesting thing happened when this went through my head. I kind of cooled down, and later they told me that the last thing you should do is panic because the blood flows faster and actually this becomes really a danger. And I calmed down and actually the whole thing also slowly stopped. So it's like, I think it doesn't matter when you die, how you die. It's what you did until then, how you lived your life.
Yeah.
And this you can influence now. This you can influence every moment.
Yeah.
It's not perfect by far, There's always the challenges, but for me the biggest thing to be when you look back, okay, I did a lot of mistakes in my life, but since I have the feeling that anything that I did, I actually did it because I decided that it's the best option, and I didn't do it because of others or anything else, then it's okay. Then I'm not going to blame myself to do something wrong in the past, because I strongly believe that past is past, and you can change everything in the future, but you cannot change the past. So.
Nice.
What was the question?
Yeah, that's a nice one. You see how you wandered off. No, what would you like God to say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Yeah, for me, would be interesting not for those people who kind of went into it later, but to people who actually
transitioned.
No. The transition. This is not so interesting because this is like accepted way of thinking, But to somebody who actually lived this in the environment since they are born, they really
so they don't know anything else.
Yeah, it's like getting like getting blind with the birth and how do you perceive your environment, or getting blind with later on. Not that actually being religious means being blind by far. So it's not basically understood wrong, because we all believe in something, So we are all blind in a way to some things and actually more susceptible to the others. But would be an interesting discussion how they perceive the world differently. How basically, because this is always, they have no option.
Yeah, it's a question if they can imagine inside the box, actually. You know what I mean? If you are born with something and you are indoctrinated or you're enveloped all your life in it.
But these are the boxes that are the most interesting,
Yeah.
You know how they say you should actually think out of the box, But the reality is actually that in your life, you change maybe 10%, Okay. They say that until you're 5, you learn 90% of the things, So basically, so what is for me much more interesting than trying to get out of the box is actually to get the viewer to be able to see, or somebody to open their box for them, basically. For you, sorry. That's the exciting part.
Yeah.
That's the curiosity, basically. This is in a way why we do this also, on some level.
You mean what?
Yeah, we are opening our box to others,
Yeah.
And the reason is because I'm interested in other boxes, so maybe this is also interesting to somebody else.
You know what I would like to touch? Yeah, you said the silence is the scariest part.
Yeah.
And I wanted to share a story, actually. I've been in Anechoic Chamber. I've studied in Netherlands, and I had an option to go and visit because I attended the lecture, which was titled Architecture and Philosophy and Architecture, and we had to do a project. So it was actually music and architecture. Yeah, that was it. That was it. So concerning the music, I wanted to research silence, and then natural sounds and so on. And I visited this Anechoic Chamber, which is actually structurally interesting. It's quite a technological feat. How you do a room which no sound, the most sound you can eliminate, from the room. So this room actually has to be floating on the pads. Interesting thing happened when I entered the room, because the walls, as I said, are padded with the foam. So there's no echo. Actually, it's on 99.9. I think echo is eliminated. But interesting thing, when you sit there for a few minutes, you start hearing your own blood streaming through your veins. And the funny thing was, when I was sitting, I heard my body actually. When I turned the head, I heard friction between the spine and the head. And it was kind of it wasn't scary, because I was kind of used to it, or I expected to hear these sounds. But I can imagine that people, actually they've been cases that people that they went crazy a bit.
I mean, the silence is, the question is if it's even absolutely possible. Do you know maybe deaf people, they don't hear anything?
I don't know if they don't hear anything. They don't feel, like Beethoven. He didn't hear, but he sensed the vibration. So I don't know if you can be totally numb, to sound maybe, but not to vibration. That was my point.
Yeah.
In the Anechoic Chamber, I heard friction of the body. So probably you sense the vibration still.
In science fiction movies, sometimes you see, there was one science fiction movie from 70s that actually the prison was infinitive white space. So this is where the people go mad. I think actually there's one torture technology also that they put you basically in space, which is totally dark. Which is the opposite. It doesn't matter. Or in that science fiction is totally white, but you don't see the end of it. So here basically the same would be basically if it's totally dark, you go crazy because you lose the perception of space, or you lose the perception of yourself. Slowly, and I think with the sound is the same, if you don't feel the consequence of your existence, so basically the sounds you make by moving, by influencing, by observing, by turning your head, which changes all the time, depends where you look, the sound is different. I think this is what makes you crazy, because basically there's no proof that you exist.
Yeah, in a way.
There's no proof that you are there,
You could make a case that actually the senses are what makes you being human, isn't it? So when you perceive like sound, touch, all of the senses and stimuli, that makes you human.
Any basically sense that actually you can define your position in space. I have this theory basically that not theories, this is basically that we invent whatever we invented, like numbers, time, basically distance, measurements, mathematics, is all based on fear, because you have to define basically your position in space. And for instance, the super thing is actually mathematics, when you have the scalar, whatever, there's always a zero, which is a base point, And with that you define all the rest. But this doesn't exist, it's not there, we invented it, So it's actually, we anchored our position in time, space, whatever, on total basically abstract way. It doesn't exist. We did it so we can actually always know where we are in relation to something, Because space is vast, the whole planet is vast, everything is when you walk around the Earth at that time, everything looked like infinity, The time, okay, you have day and night, at least that, you can do some orientation. But we invented all the rest, And for me, the God is also something like this, We invented the point that we can relate to, The mathematics, the science, axioms. We invented the points that we can relate to. They don't exist, Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe somebody can prove me wrong and tell me differently.
Yeah.
But I think this comes out of fear of basically not knowing your position, not knowing your basically orientation.
If you have values, where do then your values come from?
Your parents gave them to you, more or less. Your primal environment is where you build the most of them. You adapt them, but basically. It's funny because the environment changes and the values are funny. You can have one values, for instance, I went through a transition of like 2 or 3 systems in my life, And what were the values?
You mean politically?
Yeah, I mean, there's the cultural
Socialism.
environment. Cultural environment. Political, yes, but also...
What do you mean cultural?
We had like communism.
Yeah, politically.
Yeah, but this influenced the culture, Actually, the politic by itself, it's whatever. I didn't even understand it. I didn't basically... It was the culture environment we were in, And the values at that time basically are quite in clash with any value we live now. So if I don't change my values, and you come to the different environment, basically something that was bad 20 years ago can be good today.
But what do you mean? Because you can...
to be greedy, it was a holy sin at that time, to be egotistic and greedy, Now, that's the name of the game. You're stupid if you're not basically acting like that. People say, look at this lunatic, he's a dreamer today. Before this was like...
They would send you on an island and that's it.
Yeah, this is like before... We can also speak to the opposite. If you were too opinionated on some non-popular topic, basically they send you to some island, like you said, But today, actually, that's the funny part. I don't think it's much different. Just the islands are different. You get isolated. They send you to the obscure forests in the north. Actually.
You are woke and then you're out.
and basically it's like it didn't change much, but the values basically are perceived quite differently.
A lot of people I meet, especially older ones, say, it was good in the old times, which can be like nostalgia and nice thinking. But what would you say?
I try to actually, maybe I'm not successful in it and probably an influence, but try to take nostalgia out of basically the equation when I try to compare those things. I don't think the people like to talk about politics, but I don't think the politics matters, basically. What matters is basically because you can put a human being to any politics and it's going to make good or bad in it. It always depends who is using it and how.
That's actually true.
So it's like it doesn't matter. It's more how it's implemented, one politics or another. Because for instance, now, I was just reading an article of 2 of artists I know, interview this morning, and the thing was actually that they talk about they talk about exactly these things. How it used to be basically, there were some values and there was some direction and stuff like that. And today there's no consensus, there's no common ground, there's no common direction, But what they forget to mention, that the common ground and direction was set by the system. So if you were not agreeing with it, there was really a slight margin of basically going left or right, basically from some idea. But what it gives to people is basically peace. Like God,
Yeah. It's interesting. When you were talking, I actually was thinking we shifted somehow from God to politics or to culture, that's again to my point. If you boil down to the essence of the questions, it doesn't matter how you start. That's my point. If you start questioning either God, either existence, either purpose, either culture or systems,
I think these topics are infinitive. I think you can talk and you can discuss this forever and you're not going to come to an end. What is for me important is basically, I always say, I don't judge the people of what they say or what they are saying or writing, but what they're actually doing, Because basically, when you have to do something, then you manifest your values in action.
Okay, now we come
So this is something that actually it's really important, because talking is easy.
Yeah.
You know, there's all kinds of basically discussions you can have. It's important to have them, but they have to have why. So they have to have reason, you know, for me personally. So when you discuss something, it's great, you know, actually I really like to discuss things, but always with the goal of creating something.
Now we come to something. What do you do actually? So my
I
question
mean, what
to you,
I do, like,
what do you do? Not about
trying to survive, like by eating 3 times per day. That's the basic one. That's the annoying one. Actually, we have to eat like cows. You know, we have to eat like all the time. You know, we so like to separate from the rest of the animal planet, but basically we have to eat all the time.
Should we go to that topic? To food?
I mean, you know, whatever topic it is. You know, so this
talk about creativity. Let's say about creativity work. So what you, if I can frame the question. I agree. The words are more sophisticated, are on a, let's say, higher level. But what you do with it, how you bring down these concepts, this actually shows in the world. So I agree. What do you do with it? What do you do with something?
The language was invented to communicate, not to masturbate. You know, and basically, I think that we totally forgot about it. You know, to communicate, how do we want our world around us to be? You know, so it's a tool to achieve something. It's not the act by itself. You know, we just to communicate and that's it. You know, you need to, and I also I believe that actually you have to step out of the comfort zones and go to the places also in discussions and it has actually that you don't feel like it, so you come to some new perspectives, but it has to have a purpose. So basically, and this is the thing, you know, and today's the world is becoming really funny in that, you know, actually, for instance, communicating with emojis, monkeys can do it, and we went basically from basically communicating in sentences and in texts and in books and in news and in written language and in spoken language down to everyday basically 3 sentences and 4 emojis. But monkeys can do it. Monkeys can communicate with emojis, basically with pictograms. And this is now basically the most popular communication that we have, you know. So for me, it's like, it's not about tools and the things actually, but it's the will actually to create something, and how do you communicate that this happens. So it's like, how do we, and I strongly believe actually that you have to involve as many basically the people that you can basically into creating something new or different or just to create, and the language should be used to communicate how we're gonna do it, you know.
So the concept is what you do with it matters, not what you think about it only. So we were, I don't say, let's see, maybe 10 years ago, we were with one couple. They were around 80. So they lived through systems as well as you did. And the guy said, no, socialism was much better than now. And his wife said, no, democracy, we have to live like now. And they were poking each other all the time. And after like minutes, my wife said, let's now for a minute, let's just forget about the question either socialism or communism or democracy. What do you do with the values? What are your values? Tell me your values and what do you do with it? And then the man just stopped and said, no, actually, it's true. I have values that are maybe common to yours, but we argue about the concept, but we like this, we share this common ground.
Look, there's a big difference between democratic design and designing democracy. And this gets mistaken a lot of times, you know, because I believe in democratic design, you know, but democracy is quite simple by itself, you know. You just have to use emotional, basically, intelligence to include the needs of others into your, basically, work, whatever you do. And that's totally okay. That's democratic design. Now, designing democracy, you can go on and on and on and on about it. You know, it's like you cannot come to it. But basically, it's just about, again, you can go back to 10 commandments. You know, never do to others what you don't want others to do to you. If this would be like in general, you don't need any other explanation. You don't need to like discuss it. You just do it. You just have to take others into the account, and sometimes you do better, sometimes you do worse. Basically, there's a hierarchy of basically things you do, and you decide how you're gonna basically put them in practice. But it's not a rocket science. Democracy is not a rocket science. Socialism is not a rocket science. Communism is not a rocket science. It's quite simple. But the execution of it, that's another story.
Yeah, that's what we are talking about now.
That's another story. So just shut up and use it basically and do the stuff the way you think it's right. And to show to everybody else, look, it's possible. I did it through democratic design and it works. It sells. Even in capitalism, on the wild markets, And these are the things actually, I think actually it's like, I think that people get into the discussion about how to get an old lady over the street, to the level that she gets hit by a car, because she's left in the middle while others are discussing how they're gonna get her over. Just do it, You don't need to discuss. There are other things to discuss that are much more interesting than this.
No, it's no. But let's be concrete, because it's how do you actually envision it, or how would you do it, or do you do it in your company? How do you see it?
It's simple. You just have to. I think it helps a lot if you give yourself basically a solid goal, a 0 point, or basically a place basically you can feel safe and work around basically as effective as possible for. It's different between each of us, but basically, first of all, it's you focus on creation, you focus on a product, and the second of all, you basically, for me, you focus on how you want to live, basically, in the time of which you're going to develop this product. And for me, basically, I want to do it with people we share the values and the experiences, and we are intrigued and bothered by the same things. It's like a marriage, in a way, when you actually try to get these things together, because it's not important which things you share that are positive. You have to share the annoying stuff. You have to, first of all, for me, there's no creativity without being annoyed. Basically the curse of creative people they are like constantly annoyed by things, because if the things work, why change them? If there is a design that's already there, why change it? We have a kind of a disease, that everything has to be different and created and up and down, and it has to differentiate and be present and more exciting. But in reality, we are just circling all the times. Basically, the last 20 years, this was a funny discussion, that I was listening. The AI is going to destroy the music, because it's just repeating the samples basically of the music and putting them into the new kind of music, new pieces. We did this already quite effectively in the last 20 years without any AI. AI just does it faster. Maybe we're going to come to realization, instead of 20 years, we're going to come after 5 minutes, maybe this is not a good idea, let's do something different.
I actually agree, because it's the same as other technologies. You can see how the Industrial Revolution changed, and we've been doing the same thing what we did like 500 years ago, just faster and shorter pace.
Social media has, for me, the phenomenon of social media is super funny, because the primal use of social media, or the main use, is basically the same as it was actually people sitting by the fire 10,000 years ago. The topics are the same. The food, sex, like personal relationships, lifestyle, the same. It's just actually different technology of doing it. So we didn't develop much, We're just using the different stick. And it came to the level that actually, sometimes I'm like, with this communication is like, oh my God, we could actually speak or play chess, for instance, but what we are doing, we are playing post-chess. I write something, move this to G2, and then I wait for a week that somebody writes back, okay, this is this. So it's a retarded communication. So this what we actually do right now, it's like it has a terabytes per second of communication, because it's not just verbal, it's also physical, it's also all of this, in comparison to basically digital communication, but we call it high tech. I don't believe so. I think this is basically numbed us down to like level of monkeys, really.
But how do you implement it in the in the real life of managing the factory, managing the creative process, development of the projects, the democratic process. You know what I mean? If you would say, okay, I'm the boss, I am a socialist boss.
I am kind of, because basically I was many times basically you shouldn't be such a socialist about the workers and stuff like that.
Peter, that was my point. That's the reason why I asked, because you know where
I was called Santa Claus a few times basically because
but tell me why. What was the
I really believe actually that one weird thing happened between two systems, because before everybody was paid the same, let's say. It was not quite true, but let's say everybody was paid the same. And there was no demand from a boss, actually this you have to do for this money in this time, but it was kind of, okay, we are doing this, and people were annoyed if they were working hard to achieve something for the same salary and somebody else, basically was slacking. Because the value was work done, the value was work done, even though they say there was a lot of slacking and stuff like this, because this normally happens when you have basically an option.
When you lose the system.
No, when you have an option to do it, you're going to do it, because was not profit driven, was not goal driven. I mean, kind of a goal driven, but goals were like on a higher level. And by far that nothing was achieved at that time, it was just achieved differently in a different way. And today you have everything basically like quantized. You have like everything has its own value. You measure everything. I truly believe that the truth is somewhere in the balance between those two things. So for me, basically, to establish the environment, it's actually that we agree that we have kind of same values and we respect them, each other's. It's not about. We all just have different roles. I know that some people say that now this is like the most kind of liberal thing to say, But I don't mind. We have different roles, and I cannot do anything without workers, and they probably cannot do stuff basically without me. Of course, they can always go to work somewhere else, to work on something else. But we are in the same boat. You like it or not, is this liberal or not, we are in the same boat. And now we have two options. We kind of agree how we're going to basically communicate and function, so this boat is going to go more or less in the same direction, or we just basically deal with our relationship and circle around, trying to figure it out how we're going to do. So I think, like with everything else, it's quite important that communication is clear, what you want to achieve, what you expect, what your values are, where you want to come, what are the conditions, and then people have a choice basically to decide are they going to go on this boat or some other boat. And I think today this is actually more possible than ever, and actually I also think that people don't use it a lot. If you don't like your job, you can always change it.
Then they don't use it, meaning that.
Yeah, if you're not option and if you're not a fit, basically you should find yourself a place that you are, because today this is possible. There's no more of this thing that you actually you study, then you get a job and you're gonna be there till you die. You can change your job. And lately, new generations, they can easily work anywhere on the world. It really became like free. You can do the thing. So for me right now, if you're not like abused intentionally and basically really hardcore abused in your workspace, you can always change the job. You can always go to work somewhere else.
Maybe it's more common with the younger generations because older tend to be more rigid. But maybe with Gen Zs, they are.
I don't know.
Like,
my experience is the expectations are really high also on the other side, because of course, all of a sudden the company Nesenice is compared to basically a Silicon Valley, basically Google style company, and there's no way to do it the same way, because the environment is different and you have to adjust. So yeah, there are some demands that make sense and they're also effective. But at the end, basically, the focus, in my opinion, really should be the consequence of our existence and everyday life. And I can see it with everybody. When you can see this, that you are part of some story and you can see the consequences, positive consequences, especially of your work, everyday work, people are happy. It's like And the consequence, of course, is the salary, is the job you do, is the relationships, is the whole thing. It's not just one or the other. So for me, just to say, if you're gonna do this and this, then you're gonna. It's a complex system that you have to learn how to kind of balance all the time.
So how do you navigate it?
I think one of the most important things is that you don't work with people that are the same or similar to you.
Okay.
Because you need a broader perspective.
Does this mean on the level of creativity only, like also, in the management department, or in general?
In general.
So also in the factory level, the workers.
It's much harder to. It's much basically harder to communicate on everyday level and to make it through. But it gives you much broader perspective on the things you are doing, and the things you want to achieve. And normally it leads to a better basically result. But of course you have still basically drive into one direction. It's fine. You go to one direction, but you shouldn't be disappointed if you come a bit left or right. But you have to have that direction. And again, it's a balance between being rigid and driving everything into one direction and being open, but still trying to steer this to one direction.
If you would rate yourself, you manage it quite well, or what would you change?
There's like huge amount of space to improve, but maybe I'm a bit specific because I put a lot of intuition on my intuition, and I learned that in the past.
Yeah,
I tried basically to follow the rules, the principles, all kinds of it, but at the end, basically it's intuition.
So give me an example. What would that mean?
For instance, when you're selecting the partners for your journey, you can read the CVs and everything, that they can be up and down the fast, but basically what you should do, before you go into the big boat, you should just paddle around the bay a little bit to see if you can actually get from one side to the other before you hit the ocean.
Meaning what?
That you just
concretely, what do you do?
You just test people.
You throw in the air the CVs and then
No. First of all, basically, when you go through the first contact, my question is basically what they expect, what they want, and to see what kind of personality or person are they. I think we are quite Gorenska, Gorenska, because I'm from Gorenska, Jaka is from Gorenska. I think we are quite Gorenska, that company, which means basically we are hard on communication. We tell it as it is, we don't like BS and to play around. And this for some people is just like,
really down to earth people. So you are straight and.
I think we are. You can tell me how do you perceive that, but I think we are quite on no BS level, and for some people this is basically hard. So for some people this is aggressive.
That's why I asked the difference between the management and the workers. Because
workers are worse than we are.
Yeah, they
are more hardcore. They are really open,
robust in language,
and outspoken, and so on. So you have many different languages you have to use, and the best example is basically that. Actually, for instance, when you're developing the projects and you're on creative mode, you blah blah blah, you go basically to all kinds, you swear, you compare, you talk up and down because you're talking to your colleagues, you actually talk about philosophy, you talk about basically environmental issues, politics, social, all kinds of basically things that you think you believe actually it can contribute to the development of the project. Then you talk to basically workers, you tell them like, look, 1 meter high, 20, the same thing, the same topic, the same project. 1 meter 20 high, 40 deep, the profile comes here, 10 screws, So you describe the same basically creative solution in a different way. And then you talk to the customers, again, you describe this in a different way. Here you're going to have basically a space where you're going to put stuff. It's going to look like this and this, it's going to face basically the sunrise in the morning and stuff like this. So it's different basically communications for the same basically concept you're describing. And this is really important. Because communication for me is not basically what you're talking, what you're trying to tell, but how people understand it.
So are you in the same way that in the morning I am an engineer, in the afternoon I'm an artist? So it's a bit like that.
I think this is emotional basically intelligence, that you have to constantly develop, that you respond to different situations differently. It's not like 3 modes you just predict and you're going to switch in, switch out. And I also like to mix those modes, because basically these boundaries between different communications, I like the workers that they understand what they are doing, So I'm not explaining them just this difference, but actually the focus is on that. But I like them they understand what they are doing, what it basically is the consequence of basically, or the responsibilities in a way. So it's a constant switching. It's not like sometimes you don't switch for a week from one stage to another if you don't have to, but it's on demand basically. And there's no right or wrong way, you're learning all the time. So you have to respond basically to the different situations.
Actually, this is what I wanted to ask, but you answered it already. You are constantly learning, but in order to learn, you have to be open. So constantly, you have to actually be open to sense the different aspects of communication, work, and so on, isn't it?
Yeah, it's actually the management thing is the funny, that it's taught basically quite rigidly. You should do this and this, so this consequence or this and this, but all the tools, the timelines, the projections, the things are just kind of a backbone you can lean on, but you don't really implement them as they are. It's like your frame where you work on, so you can see where you're off. When you're really off. Because again, it's a balance. Because if you do it totally unstructurally and you just go and okay, we're gonna do something, it's not gonna get anywhere. But if you're totally rigid and you say, look, it's gonna go like this and this and this and this, and no way anybody steps out of it, it's too rigid, so it's also gonna go nowhere. It's gonna break sooner or later. So the trick is actually how to do both things, to respond to situations, but still have basically a direction.
So what is the direction? What is your vision actually?
The question is always, like, ask myself, like, also, why are we doing this today? Is like also, why do I do the things? Why company? Why do I don't just get employed somewhere? Like my mother's question, like all my life. Basically, why? These are important questions, and if you don't know the answer, then you probably shouldn't do it. And basically, I worked, of course, in many different situations and ways. I just want to be part of something I believe in, and if you don't find it, then you have to create it.
Oh, that's a nice one.
Basically, because otherwise you're always the victim of not taking the responsibility for yourself. Not for anybody else, for yourself. So you have to be, because it's definitely not the easier way. So there has to be a reason why you do it. So one of the most important things is, for me, I really love basically the fact that every morning I go out with a joy and actually say, oh my God, we're gonna do it today. Let's do another one. And by far, I like all the work I have to do. But still, the direction and the meaning and the if you want, the mission of it, excites me.
So that's the answer, you would say, the pure joy of it, that drives you, or you have a specific
fulfillment. It's not quite the joy; it's fulfillment. So basically, it's just try to avoid frustrations, or anything that can drive you into the frustration. Because when you're frustrated, it's already too late, probably. And there's no right or wrong way. That's why you don't see two companies running the same way. There's no universal rule how you should do one thing that you would. They try to teach that, but in reality, it's just the responsive ones and non-responsive ones. But like I told you before, I think actually that communication today is like really, like we went from 1 + 1 = 3 to 1 + 1 = 2, and then now today is 1 + 1 = 1. So we just want to be single-minded, and I think this is like a cancer disease of today's society, that basically there's no we don't have a totalitarian system, but we all behave like one. We are totalitarian to ourselves. And I hope this kind of, because I'm curious about other stories, I hope basically other people can find something interesting in this. and we all live in a balloons, with our own values and our own basically persuasions and views and everything. And I'm always super curious what's in other balloons, So in a way, this is kind of a hospitality act. And I really believe that the best hospitality is by sharing your own values and experiences, and that's it.
Mm. So again, you come to the same actually principle that the intuition drives you, and then you just curious naturally, and then this is the response. So you
I just
like
try
to share it, and
there's like always two levels. One is rational, one is emotional, and I think that with years I trust my emotional basically sensors much more than rational. Or like this, if it's a red light on one or the other side, then you don't do it. You don't just basically rely on one. If I do it again, of course I would do it differently, but I wouldn't change what I did in the past. So.
Probably learned some things, for sure you did.
Yeah, we all do.
Yeah.
And it's funny, all the basically experiences are super valuable. I like to listen to other people's experiences and pick their brain on them. Why? Because what we hear today is like what people did and how, That's the most interesting part. The less interesting part. This is really not interesting. I'm interested why they did it. You see a beggar on the street. But how did you come to that level? What's your life story? What did drive you here? What is the? I intentionally didn't put like basically some high tech celebrity success because this guy's story could be even more interesting than the other. And this is, and we should ask ourselves more, just how it came to things. Not to put them in some basket, but to understand and use that experience of somebody else. And this, like for me, the books are in general, and movies used to be, not anymore. It's like basically, it's like intentional or basically wireism. Somebody lets you into their basically world. To share basically their experiences, their values, their views, whatever. But I think the intention is because they like to do it also.
So it goes both ways.
They're just sharing. Yeah.
They're sharing it. They like it because of
because it's kind of hypocrisy, if you like something but you don't do it yourself also. The same as if you don't like something and you do it to the others, So in a way, basically, in a kind of democratic principle, I used a lot of basically other people, basically experiences in my life. So I just want to share mine also, if they want to. They don't have to. You can always switch on, change the channel. Don't even open. It's a free choice.
You actually enjoy it and you like to share it.
Yeah,
whatever it may be.
Like I said, from the reason because I like to basically. Read what others are sharing, discover what others are sharing. I would be a hypocrite if I wouldn't do it myself also.
Yeah.
This is what I believe that actually, for instance, copyright is one of those things. If we would take the copyright seriously, then you don't have the money to pay nothing. You probably stolen like millions of patents before you were even 5 years old. Because we all learn basically from past experiences. And one thing that I believe that it's making this basically culture developing slower is copyright.
So what would you do? Would you just open everything up to the...
Because at the end, the product matters, not who actually came up with the idea or was a part of the process, but what happened, what was made, what was basically a completely other culture.
That's nice, but that would demand actually complete shift of the perception in culture. That
of the values,
that everybody would act like that.
Of course, but you
cannot not demand that.
No, you cannot demand, but you can actually act like it. You can contribute. You can share, for instance. You can actually basically open whatever you created to others to use freely if they want.
More or less, but probably not to the extent of the total openness, because then you would compromise your business to a point, isn't it? For sure, you do this.
We are not closed. We are not actually closed.
Are you sure?
We don't. Basically, we are not closed, and we were copied many times.
Yeah, but why don't you share, for example, then directly plans, but not just PDFs or something? The active versions of the plans to the world.
Even if Of course,
you don't do that.
Look. Of course, you don't want into a river. You don't jump into a river if you don't want to get wet.
That's my point.
But this doesn't mean that if I fall to the river, this is a problem.
Okay.
Because if somebody gets hold of our production plans, for instance, good luck. Yeah. We needed like 5 years to actually execute those production plans like they should.
Yeah, that's true. But then, does this mean that you would just publish them right away?
No, but if somebody asks or steals them, for instance, if somebody steals them, I wouldn't go after them.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Why? Because basically in the time, with the energy that I need actually to protect my copyrights, I can do 10 new basically.
That's interesting, isn't it? Because that's interesting because when you go after someone, it's true. You lose so much of the resource, so much of the energy that you could.
This is why. This is always, for instance. And you can see how this gets, the big corporations, because they have unlimited amounts of basically resources. This is when you really see the culture. And what they do, they basically protect everything. Mm. They protect basically the way they lie on the couch or the way they did the sketch. Because you never know when in future they're going to be able to sell it. Mm. But that's crazy. So basically, I think this I don't know if you can imagine the servers of this patented stuff is like 90% total crap. It's like useless and it was never there. Just in case that we can sell it. And wouldn't it be nicer that actually we would share this knowledge, all of it, and you could say basically, you see something, this doesn't work, but part of it, it's interesting. I'm gonna use. The whole civilization was done like this. We would be in Middle Ages if we wouldn't do that.
I actually agree because in a way you anyhow do that in a smaller circles. In a family you share. You don't hold if you are sensible. Probably, but you know what I mean. In a family you share ideas.
Did you ever pay basically the authorship rights for the pencil you're gonna draw the sketch with? Mm-hmm. No, you didn't. Mm-hmm. And actually it's something that it's funny, it's capitalistic and it's not, because basically you can say, okay, we're just going to value the products, and for me it's almost more interesting the consequence of the product. Mm-hmm. This should be valued, not the product itself. Mm-hmm. What's the consequence of putting something different and new on this planet? Is it bad or is it good?
Yeah.
And you know well that actually the whole Nobel stuff and all this, when they invented something that they didn't actually like and the consequence was bad.
But as you know, for sure, this protection of the rights and so on came later on.
I'm not sure. I have one, again, not theory, but the total, basically, I came in one of debates like this with one of my friends, we came to it, actually that I believe that basically the copyrights were invented by bankers, by Medici, more exactly. Mm-hmm. They were the ones who started to force the people to sign their art. So they branded it, so they could sell it. So they said, okay, this picture is not because it's beautiful and whatever, but because it's from this artist, it's more valued than the other. Mm-hmm. So this is the beginning of copyright. So the copyrights were not established for the creative people. They were established for bankers, so they could deal with it. So it's and now today we are in the world that actually the creative people are most afraid of share their copyrights, not the bankers. So basically, for me it's always funny when you get somebody who's really open and left but they are totally clinging to their copyrights, which is the most capitalistic thing you could do. Now I'm going to ask you one thing. What creativity means for you, and what do you need to be creative, basically? What's your drive?
It's actually inner urge. I have to do it. Actually, my wife a lot of time nags me. Why don't you stop working? And I always tell her, I'm not working. I'm just creative. Like my kid, I'm the same way.
Just playing or what?
Yeah. It's just a need to do something, it's inner need.
You were asking me before basically about company and everything else.
Yeah.
But the thing is actually, I met one person in United States, one of our customers who was, I was lucky, she's like top manager, American, whatever, but we spent together like almost 5 days, and I saw her between how she manages her company. Mm-hmm. And she was like a mother. to the company. For instance, this would be my ultimate goal. So she was just basically taking care that everybody in the company can be creative. And for me, creative is like basically whatever we do, design concepts up and down, here and there, you know. Creative is screwing the boards to the construction, you know. There's no place in the company that actually you shouldn't be creative, you know. Which means just responsible to basically what you do. So you have a goal, you have a purpose, you have something that you want to achieve, you know. But you know, do it with joy, you know. And this is something actually that actually. I really don't know. For instance, the question for is, I know you actually like to do physical things. You know, why physical? You know, why you don't satisfy just with a concept or with this? Why basically physical stuff?
That's probably in my nature. I was asking myself the same thing a lot of times. What do I like to do? Physical stuff, buildings, architecture, designs. My point is that I didn't get an answer still till today.
Yeah, but writing, for instance, for me, writing is basically, I love it, you know, but it's basically a process for me that is super rigid. You know, it's like you put something down, you review, you test. Actually, the communication that comes out of it is super controlled.
Meaning that its rigidity is good or bad?
For me, bad.
Okay.
For instance, if you want to communicate, talking for me is much easier because we can jump in, we can discuss, we can top each other up. You know, you can poke me and I go to some other direction and something else comes to my mind, and I'm creative in the process of communication, much faster and much more responsive than in writing. And writing you also do with yourself, you know, and this is something actually that it's less sparkling for me, less dynamic, you know. And the same is basically with I actually love to work with other people. You know, I have my own opinion, my own direction, but I need a feedback. I think differently. I need the feedback. You know, I need the feedback. Even at the end, if you decide for the same thing you wanted to decide at the beginning, but at least you understand better why you decided like that. And this creativity for me basically is that. And I see for you, for instance, the way I see it, you know, you can have an idea, you can have a concept, but you really don't know it until you do it.
Yeah, and it's different in the realm of thinking or in the realm of idea than it is in the real stuff, real material world. That's the reason why I like it, actually, to embody it. That's it.
But it's good enough. But one other thing which is interesting for me, basically, because I know we are a bit different on this one.
Tell me.
About aesthetics.
You're telling me that you know me better than I do?
No, by far, you know.
Yeah.
Basically, it's like.
But maybe you do.
No. It's just no. Knowing is how is it this saying that knowing is not doubting, but the doubting is not knowing. You know, it's like basically it's a balance between those things. You know, to know everything is not okay, but not to discover, to just discover all the time also is not. So it's basically always like re-questioning. You know, doubt everything. For instance, this is for me. I really believe in it. You know, whatever comes your way. You know, if you're really interested in how is this.
Yeah, then we go. Then here we come to the Descartes, and you know what you can doubt, and then you come to you can doubt anything.
I'm really bad in the philosophy and these kind of things, you know. Basically, but it's
yeah, but you know what his point was. You know, he asked himself the basic principle of Descartes was he asked himself, what do I really know? And then the questions were, what do I doubt? Isn't it? You know, and the senses you can doubt, and on and on and on. And then he came to the sentence, I think, therefore I am.
Yeah.
This I cannot doubt, which is still interesting.
Yeah, but you can say also I am. That's why I think. You know, so you can flip it.
Yeah.
So it's like, does it matter then?
Actually, I started to writing.
Does it matter then? You know,
I actually started writing a book 1 year ago, which was actually tackling that point. If you flip it, because you can. First you are, then you think.
Yeah.
Or what does actually being, or that you are, what does this mean actually?
But again,
here we are jumping into the philosophy.
No, but look, we can go easily. You know, I think that's what I am. You know,
Yeah.
so now you can go what means thinking and what things existence.
Yeah, yeah.
You know? And you can go on that one totally left. You can never end basically. You can go like into infinity on both sides, basically discussing basically the core point. But what is interesting by doing, you know, you have to actually basically put all these values or how do you perceive the values and where do you position them in practice. So that it's not important anymore how do you think that what you are and you are because you think and so on.
Yeah.
But basically what you did with that.
Yeah.
You know? So basically the consequence of your existence is not just word, but something that you produced, something that you did.
Yeah.
And more important, that you influenced, that you share, that you influence with others. That you influence others by using it. You know, that's the interesting part. Because if you just do it and it stays in your cellar,
yeah, here,
you know.
But yeah, okay, we have that need to share it, but you know.
Why would you do it without sharing? Would you do something? Would you do something that you don't care if anybody ever sees it?
This is actually what I was thinking now. Would I be satisfied? For sure, I wouldn't be. I know for myself that I have to, that's another urge.
No, they always can say, yeah, you're so narcissistic that you have to actually share everything you do with everybody else. No, but really, why do we talk then?
No, because we are, I think, I mean, that's a known principle, but we are social creatures and we have a internal need to share, to belong and so on. So probably it is connected with that, you know, purely physical, biological. You have an urge to do it with others.
But you know why we do it? Did you ever thought why we do it, why we share? I think it's totally selfish why we share.
Yeah, for selfish reasons, yeah.
Totally for selfish reasons. You know, no bullshit. It's like basically we share, you know, because we like to be appreciated.
Peter, you are a selfish person.
Definitely.
Yeah, that's nice. No,
You know, I can say of myself, I'm as selfish as I want everybody else to be selfish.
To be selfish, yeah, is it? Yeah.
Because I think, you know, it's funny when you have a kid. You know, this is a great topic, you know. And you discuss, you know, what's the priorities in the family, you know. But in reality, if you look at it, you know, okay, we should take care of the kid, you know, then obvious priority, you shouldn't just, you know, you should feed it, you should, you know, do as much as you can.
Maslow's pyramid. First basic needs and then
basic needs, you know. But in reality, you know, if there's no family, you know, this kid is left alone. So basically, when you think about it, first you should have a basically kind of a family kind of going on, you know, so this kid gets, you know, and to have a family, you know, you have to have two people basically, you know, healthy, you know, active,
are you sure nowadays?
happy, you know, up and down actually, with themselves actually, to contribute to this family, to build this family. So what's the most important when you try to take care of the kid? It's you.
Yeah, that's the reason why you, in the airlines, you know, they say, tell you, the mother, that you have to put the masks first.
Not just this, they did basically,
on yourself,
they did researches, and actually, in the case of crash, the mother holds the baby in the neck. But in the case of crash, she's going to protect herself first.
Yeah, for sure. Because if you're not well, then no.
And this is this is the biological reaction.
I get your point. A lot of times I meet people that don't make boundaries to themselves, and then I say, no, you have to be more selfish, which is a good thing. You know, to have boundaries. Look, then you can produce, then you can be more creative, and others will benefit. That's my point.
I hate this because this is like, for me, like pushing the okay, hate another word. I don't like this because basically this is like pushing responsibility to others. You know, you shouldn't, for instance, today, the people are easily insulted. You know, it's like you tell them, you know, like, I don't know, you cannot be too careful basically anymore. Everything can insult everybody already. Any opinion on anything, you know, you just have to. But the reality is, if you walk down the street and somebody tells you're an idiot, you know, if you don't believe it yourself, somewhere deep down even, you're not going to be insulted.
For sure.
You're not going to be insulted because it's just somebody's opinion.
Yeah.
So, you know, so if we start taking care of each other, so we're not going to, you know, overstep anything. This is hell, you know, it's like constant awareness of basically consequences of basically there is a emotional intelligence, you know, when you say, okay, this is important, this is not, like I said before, you shouldn't do to others what you don't want others to do to you. good enough. If you manage to do that, you can be as selfish as you want. You know?
Yeah.
And I like strong people. I like strong personalities. Like today is about to talk, you're a big ego, you know, or a small ego. In my experience, in my life, you know, dealing with big egos is much easier than dealing
But
with
probably
small
there
egos.
is a balance, you know, because, okay, if we say we can go in either spectrum, you know, you can be totally open, totally not politically correct and so on, but kind of we are living in that times right now, I think.
No, but definition of intelligence, you know, definition of intelligence is basically the intelligence, for instance, the Eskimo, you know, with all his knowledge and intelligence, how to survive in this harsh environment, would die in a desert. So the same intelligence applied to a different situation is not the same, basically. The same knowledge or expertise or wisdom applied to basically a different situation is not the same intelligence, the level of intelligence. So to be emotional intelligence means you adapt to the situations, you know. So you don't, like we discussed before, as you can tell the same thing in a different way to different people. And I like this sometimes, you know, basically. I always say that actually whoever built my personality forgot to put me the front brakes, you know, I have the back brakes. So later I sometimes, you know, I shouldn't do this, but front brakes are missing sometimes, you know. So you should just like, but in a way, you know, if you surround yourself with people who you respect, basically, and they respect you, you can allow yourself to be basically more relaxed and also go into a conflict even, you know, without basically any. I love conflicts, you know, for instance, basically, because it's two different opposite sides. Trying to find a common ground, because if you don't try to find the common ground, you don't have a conflict. It's just each of us can go the opposite direction and it's done. We just avoid the problem. And this is today's society, if you ask me. We are just avoiding the problems all the time.
But how do you see this notion that you can say anything, anytime? Okay, probably
you cannot.
Yeah, probably you cannot. But it is somehow technology allowed us to do a lot of things to the point that there is no boundary anymore. You know, you can say if you have guts, that's for sure. You know, and if you're not afraid. But where is the limit then?
Without some, you know, for instance, you watch basketball. And it's a hardcore game, you know, it's very physical and stuff like this, you know, but you have a referee. Did you ever ask why, after all these developments and everything, you still have a referee? They say, no. You have somebody who actually takes care that basically you play the game inside of some boundaries. And today, you know, there's no referees anymore.
Are you sure about that? Because
no, everybody's a referee. That's the problem. You know, everybody's the referee and the player at the same time. This happens in social media, you know. So the problem is that we constantly have to negotiate what's the game we are playing.
But are you sure? Because in the social media, somebody owns it, and is he a referee actually? Not you, you know, because he can just close your feet. And
people have utopian perspective what social media, what government is. For me, government, for instance, you know, it's basically the system of basically managing the people, the crowds, no? So crowd management system, that's government. And you have different styles, different orientation, whatever. But if you look at basically, it's successful when actually the people, there is the least conflicts between the people, basically. Yeah? And that's the good government. So it doesn't propose, and it's funny because basically what you have to satisfy is basic needs, and they cannot even do that sometimes. And when actually there's a problem of crisis is actually when the government doesn't take care of it, and then people turn, you know. Did you ever ask why everybody in Germany, not everybody, but majority went for Hitler, you know, in Germany? Because all the other systems failed. It's not because his system was so amazing, but all the others failed. People felt left like without basically any support, any frame, any nothing, and then they went basically for something they believed it's going to be better.
And then they find somebody to ring the bell, and that was it.
Yeah, and that's.
I agree.
I agree. That's
no, we can go home. Somebody said.
We know what we know us too well, you know. Then it's like nothing new.
No. You know, I just read one day. one time, not so long ago, podcasts are people who disagree meet, and then they talk, and then they agree. You know, normally they disagree and they go to the podcast, so they would disagree, but then all what they do is agree.
I mean, the thing would be to basically, I kind of.
I don't want to poke you.
No. But that's the point why we are here, because basically the poking is not stabbing. That's different.
I don't know.
Poking and stabbing are two different things. You know? I really love poking. I hate stabbing in the back.
So you're trying to say that you came to poke me? Or
yeah, I'm not there yet. I have to.
What was your intention?
Yeah, so I'm gonna go. Basically, we're gonna go to some other topics. Maybe you're gonna be more engaged. Basically, so it's like for instance, you have this perception that we talked about basically how the world is organized, but also there is the cool part about this, that each of us has different experience and we have different perspective basically of the things. And for instance, I know that we have a difference a bit in perspective what the role of aesthetics in the society, for instance, or in the culture.
Ah, that's true.
Yeah?
I don't know. Actually, I don't know. Maybe today we agree.
Yeah, just because we are on podcast, okay. We are. It's just. But okay, the aesthetics. So no, we're not gonna go now. The aesthetics, the role of the aesthetics in the society, basically in general society.
What do you want to know?
Why do we need it? You know.
Aesthetics.
Why do we need aesthetics? Why do we need beauty? This is the question I know actually.
Okay. Why do you need beauty? Actually, I would throw a question.
Sorry. Do you try to before that? Do you try to basically whatever do you design? Do you try for it to be beautiful? And why do you think that's important?
Actually, I think that's intrinsic, not a need. Maybe it is a need. I don't know. For me. You know, but it's something that drives me. So I don't know. I like beautiful things. I like to be.
But what is beautiful thing for you?
So what is beauty for me? Isn't it?
Is this aesthetics? Is this the same or is
now you are poking me? You know why? Because when I was studying, I actually went to I studied architecture, but then I went one day. I remember. I wanted to know what is beauty, you know, architecture, beautiful things, designs, and so on. And then I searched for the book, and this book was not in the architectural library. So I have to go to the philosophy library of philosophy. Yeah. And what I can remember is that I came to see the book, and it was a thick book. Beauty was the title of it, you know. So I glanced at it. I shuffled through it. But what I can remember is that it was so filled with definitions and stuff that the only thing I remembered that was 20 years ago maybe is the title only. So from then on, you know, I think about beauty a lot. I don't know. It's just a feeling, a drive, which is purely subjective. This is what I know.
But do you ever do something that you finish, you know, and you say, that's not, I'm gonna throw it. That's it.
It usually doesn't work for me that way, because if something grabs me really hard, then I must do it until I'm satisfied. You know?
I know what to ask you. You know, that's now super provocative, because I know I'm annoyed by that kind of questions also. Like, 3 things you have to do to actually make a beautiful anything.
First that comes to mind is what you alluded before, which is follow the intuition. That's probably the number 1, and the number 2, and the number 3. No, first is to have that, but you don't do anything to have that. It just happens. Then you have to know how to listen to it or how to follow it. So probably that would be first. There comes the urge, the intuition, then you sense it, then you have to follow it.
But the beauty is something universal, like I understand, you know? Now you're talking about
No, I didn't say that. This is what you said.
Because basically the way you're explaining, that's the question. The way you're explaining it is basically, you sense it, you.
You. I was very specific.
I said
it's purely subjective, but so I didn't say it is universal. Is it? Is it universal for you?
Probably not. I don't know. You know, it's funny how we find different women beautiful. You know, different people find different types of women beautiful.
Yeah.
You know, and it's also funny how it's not just the way they look. You know, if you just put it to something like which is biologically known to everybody.
No, because we could talk about women, for example, and we would say what is
men. So it's
yes. So we are not excluding. No, but you could say what is it? Who is beautiful? What is beauty when talking about people? And then you can dive into symmetry, you know, aesthetics, and you can go to statistics, what is beautiful to most of the people that may be beautiful. But, you know, if you boil down to the question, for sure, it's not just, as you said, it's not just about proportions, aesthetic, what most of people like, because it comes with a package. How do you perceive it? In what mood you are? What other aspects influence it? Character of the person, and so on and so on. And then you come to the point that you add these layers on top of each other. Then you're not. It's not so straightforward anymore.
Cool. But I understand completely. But when you work alone, okay, cool. Now you have to basically tell somebody else to do something, and you want it to be beautiful. How do you explain this to them? How do you communicate?
That's the hardest part, actually.
Exactly. This is what we were talking before. You know?
Probably the hardest part: how to convey to someone which you feel and you have a strong emotion to, but the other may not have. It's a question, actually.
And maybe have a theory that you actually have to find basically somebody who already in sync what the beauty is, and then it's seamless. Because basically I think you have to go this step back. So you just say, okay, I cannot just demand basically somebody to understand the beauty the way I understand, but you have to find somebody who actually you share that perspective with.
If I can frame it and follow your thought, you have to be in some, let's say, in the vicinity of the same universe for a start, because if you're too much off, then it's too dissonant, and you cannot come together. Anyhow, this is it's actually a nice question.
No, it's not. It's definitely not an easy one because I don't have an answer. The thing is actually that. You know, this is funny, you know, because we have to ask these questions, even though we know we're not going to find an answer, probably. You know, but I think it's actually, again, if you go like with the kids, you know, for 70% of the things actually you miss, you know. But the point is that you care. You know, and I think here with the beauty can be the same. You know, it's actually not that you're going to ever achieve it, you know. Because maybe you can even achieve it by your standards, but not by somebody else's, and then God knows, you know, when this comes to do together. But that you care.
But this was my point. What I don't know. We were talking before, and I said that if you go deep down into any topic, it can be beauty, God, or even the purely physical chair, for example. You come to this stuff.
So that basically you have to care.
Yeah. It's a matter of attention, you know.
It's funny, you know. I challenged the ChatGPT like at the beginning already, basically on the global warming and the stuff this, you know. Yeah. And there was like we went into the direction. Okay, but even if I put this there, you know, if I separate the trash and then somebody comes and throws everything together, and maybe we shouldn't even. Have an option basically that we buy stuff in plastic and stuff like this, you know. And I was drilling down, you know, that actually I have no influence this because this happens in the basically decisions happen in some level of politics or whatever, which I have no influence in. And the ChatGPT came to the final basically level that he started circulating, and his answer was hope.
What was the question?
Its answer was hope.
You were questioning?
I was questioning my basically involvement or position or even the responsibility or what can I? Why should I even do this if I whatever I do doesn't matter?
Okay. So his answer or her answer.
Its answer actually is more precise. It's hope. So
no, I like to have GPT female voice.
Female voice.
And,
for mother-like. Maybe this is one of these Freudian things.
No, people will analyze it. Women. No.
You have to have some disease.
But what was the point? I cannot remember what I wanted to say.
That actually we were discussing that if there is hope, basically to any problem and to every conflict or whatever you think is out of it, the ChatGPT's answer was hope.
Okay.
So in this way would be care. So basically, if you do something, you strive for more. You strive for the ultimate beauty. But what is important is not to achieve it, but to care about it.
What was the meaning behind it? I'm asking because. There's a funny scene in Shawshank Redemption, the famous movie.
Yeah.
Do you know? You probably know Shawshank Redemption.
Maybe I saw it.
Morgan Freeman.
I don't remember movies and actors. You have an amazing brain for that. I actually just see a movie like a story.
Doesn't matter, but there are those two guys that wound up in a prison, and one is wrongly convicted, and the other one says to him, "Hope is a dangerous thing. You shouldn't do it here in the prison because it can drive you crazy." But then the twist comes at the end of the movie because he escapes and writes him a letter and says, "No, his name was Red. Hope is a good thing. I hope you are sound and well when you're reading this, so maybe you will go further." So that's my point. My question is if. What is actually hope, and if it is good or not? What was the ChatGPT answer or your answer?
No. This was actually what it tried to communicate, and I totally agree. And I also think the hope, it sounds like cheesy, thing actually to have. But actually, I think it's a good definition because it's direction without expectation. This is how I see hope.
Direction
without expectation. So you actually hope that something is going to happen. You don't expect it to happen, but you have a direction, because if you have a strategy, if you have a plan, if you have basically I don't know, whatever you want, more technologically or more personally, doesn't matter, but you expect some things to happen, and the only way you can be unhappy is actually if your expectation doesn't come out. But without direction, you're lost. But hope gives you the direction, but not expectation. And this is actually direction without basically expectation. And this is something, hopes cannot make you miserable, basically. This is one thing. We can tell ourselves that we do many things. We plan, we strategize, we do. But this is all in the future. So what you actually do, you hope, that you're going to be able to, or basically execute on those plans. So as cheesy as hope sounds, you cannot do more than hope. The hope. I'm not talking about hope in general. I believe in something, so I hope it's going to happen. So let's say active hope is something that is the best description.
But what is the difference?
The difference
because I don't get it.
The difference is in passive hope. You hope and you sit and you expect it's going to happen. But to do the active hope is actually you take actions. But you cannot predict what's going to happen. You have a plan, and all you can do is hope that it's going to happen. Yeah? You cannot guarantee, That's why hope is never used in business, basically, or in business plans or whatever. Because if you come to somebody, hey, I hope I'm going to make you a profit, is they going to say, something? Hope is not enough.
Oh, you're trying to say that, but deep inside, they hope.
They hope. They all hope.
They hope, but they are
You
not.
buy stocks and you hope they're going to go up. Many things can happen that we don't have influence on.
But let's say in a business, because it's an interesting conundrum, maybe.
It's a paradox.
You are a businessman. I also do business.
But one of the
but let's say you do business. Okay, I also do business. So if you would be honest, would you say No, I just hope. I don't have data and so on.
No, it's about communication. If I try to persuade him and actually put over the guarantee to somebody who is doubting basically my idea or my basically project, of course I'm not going to tell them, hey, I hope we're going to be able to do it.
Yeah.
No?
Yeah.
It's not basically culturally accepted, basically. But if you look at the meaning of the word itself, the definition of businessman, or basically today's the startup, is actually you jump into a abyss and you assemble your plane while you're falling. Basically, you cannot just build a plane basically and then jump off because you don't know what kind of plane do you need. Maybe you need a parachute actually to get through the best way. So it's kind of a responsive state on the situation. You should be able to do. And hope is something like that. You have a direction, you have a goal. And then you actively hope, you're going to achieve it. This is all you can promise.
So, if I understand correctly, hope is just a different word for goal.
No.
Goal that moves.
Goal is actually something you promise you're going to achieve.
To yourself.
Yeah, and actually it's like the direction, and if you don't achieve it, actually...
So it's a self-affirmation.
Yeah, but if you don't achieve it, basically you failed. But in reality, you never hit the goal. You go always left and right a bit, So if you're sincere to yourself, this is basically active hope. You're gonna go there. So you have the direction, You basically don't know exactly what you have to do that. The more basically on your past experience you can frame the highway, so you don't go completely left or right, but you still don't know. You hope.
Yeah, hope for me goes down to the question of the free will, because if you don't have free will, there is no hope.
But this is belief. That's a different thing.
What?
Actually, I think if you believe something, you give away your free will.
No, say that again. How do you mean?
Believe. Hope is basically personal always.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, so belief is also... What did you want to say?
If you believe something is going to happen or you hope something is going to happen is different.
Okay. Yeah, belief means that
but I jumped in. What is for you?
Yeah, you jumped in and I lost string of thought, so... There's no hope anymore. You have to start again.
No, just pick it up. It's like basically the hope for you is what you said. You lose you have a feeling if you hope that something's gonna happen, you lose your basically freedom.
No. I said that hope has to do something with the person. It's personal. And therefore, it has to do something with free will. And that comes to the question of what is free will, if you have it or not. Let's say, if you don't have free will, there is no hope. It's meaningless,
Basically, it's the paradox in the word itself, free and will.
Yeah.
Because will is a direction and free is non-direction. It's like the freedom of speech, for instance. We have this topic all the time. There's no freedom of speech. Sorry, there's no freedom in general. Freedom is basically a value for oppressed.
But what do you mean when you say there's no free speech?
Look, people never claim for freedom when they are happy.
Okay, that may be the case. Yeah. Okay.
So it's not an external factor; it's internal. So nobody can cut your freedom. You can just free yourself.
It's funny. I remember another movie talking about that, La Vita Bella.
Yeah.
You probably saw or not. But he was, in a concentration camp. But it came to it boiled down to the perspective he was taking on, he was seeing in the world, For him, it was a game to convince his child to frame his life in a manner that wouldn't affect him, but it was war raging. He was in a concentration camp, so it was just a framing of your philosophy around your life.
It's a perfect case because basically he freed himself from the situation he was in.
Yeah,
and he did it by himself.
But okay, now that was my point. If you do it to yourself, again asking it, if you do it to yourself, then it comes down to the principle, philosophy, to the beliefs you have.
Just how we deal with this, how we deal with the situation. That's why basically I'm annoyed basically on complaining. This can be done. This can be. We don't have enough freedom. We don't have enough. My question is, can you do basically the things basically you wanted to do? Not if it's hard, not hard, but can you do it?
But okay, to answer your question, probably your answer is you can do a lot of things that you earlier in previous regimes couldn't do, isn't it true?
Yeah,
but then I'll throw a question back to you. Didn't you say earlier that we don't have a free speech? Actually, that's the reason why I asked you. What do you mean?
No, because before it was clear, there's no free speech.
I know.
There's some things you cannot say.
I know, but what about now? I thought you said now we don't have a free speech.
No, we don't. We never did. We never have it. And it's an illusion. It's basically, we. Like I said, unhappy people, they always crave for freedom, Basically, happy people, they never crave for freedom. They are happy with where they are and they don't need that.
So, if you're calm, if you're satisfied, then the question becomes irrelevant.
Because you don't crave for external confirmation, I don't think external from yourself, but external from your blob, from your environment. And, it always comes that you should make yourself basically, you should crave basically, you cannot make it, but you should crave to make yourself basically not frustrated, not even happy, not frustrated is good enough. So because, and everybody has basically a power to a point to do it. One is basically, or you take an actions, and the other, you just actually mute all the disturbing basically factors, Because the funny part is, the more repressing the systems were, the more creative the responses were. Today actually there's no underground because there's no mainstream. How do you basically comment on anything because basically there's everything there. Typical problem is when you actually play the guitar and you have 5 strings and you have to figure it out. And then you download the software for basically the music making, you open the page and it's empty. You can put whatever you want in. And all of a sudden you're like, it's like, what do I do now? You can do everything, but there's no boundary, there's no that you can respond on. So you need basically, this is also in design process. For me, the most important part in the design process is basically defining the problem you have to solve, and and define the boundaries. Basically, you're gonna stay no matter what. And the narrower they are, the probability of the result is gonna be better.
I mean, that's an old notion that you have to ask the right questions to frame the problem, and then you get the answers. Probably that's in the same field.
I mean, the right questions, I think not the question.
But that's framing. You know what I mean?
Whatever you call it, however you do it, we use different ways, different technologies. But really, framing and understanding, because you cannot understand everything. It's impossible to understand everything. But you can understand a small segment on things and how basically the relationship between those things are. Because if somebody tells me, design a shoe, what kind of, that's why also it's funny when there are awards for the best shoe or for the best car or for the best basically in what context, for what purpose, for what is like sorry, but with a Ferrari you cannot pick up potatoes. Doesn't work.
It's always related to the context.
To the context,
Everything is, isn't
everything,
it?
And this is one interesting thing actually, that restrictions, nobody likes them, but actually the ultimate freedom is again like a heaven, a cloud in nothingness. You really want that?
I think the question comes down to if they are imposed on you or they are self-restrictions,
I think actually imposed ones are even better because you don't blame yourself basically.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Then you come to the regime then you would go to the extreme.
There is basically, if you want to operate in a society, there's always, you have to respect some rules.
But you wouldn't like to live in an autocracy, isn't it? Or
but we do.
Okay, explain. Because I know
the thing is, you're on a highway.
Yeah.
You see a nice meadow. You cannot just go off.
So democracy for you is autocracy.
Just
just nicely
you know how I see.
or what?
If you see democracy as a system, it's shitty as all the others. If it's a set of values, you know, we have to. We were discussing about basically why electric cars, they have batteries. There should be some, you know, system on the road. You just put the car on and then you go. But then I said, okay, but what if I want to go off here, you know, and there? Then you cannot, you know, because there's no line for that, you know. So you always trade. I think you always trade the freedom for comfort, or basically the freedom for it's always a balance between the things. You know, it's never one way or the other.
Probably we come back to what we been talking earlier, that it depends on the people and the people who run things, how they are. In that manner, they can also run whatever system it is.
It's the same for all of us. Look, it's funny, you know. Did you ever wonder basically how we all live in the same world, but some people can do amazing things and some people just sit on the couch till they die? Mm-hmm. They have more or less similar conditions, not the same. And there are differences between West world and the rest of the world and so on and so off. You know, but sometimes the amazing stuff comes from abandoned village in the center of Africa. You know. Mm-hmm. You know, it's interesting basically how there's no right conditions actually you can make for the certain things to happen. It's just the right people basically and the way they do it actually that they make it happen. Because I can tell you, there's no right conditions for there's no recipe to repeat everything. That's why for me it's interesting basically what was the reason why people did it, not how they did it. Mm-hmm. You know, because I can learn from that. Mm-hmm. I can really learn from what was their problem, their reasoning, their challenge, their stuff. You know, how do they tackle it? You know, and not what they did, because you cannot just copy paste. It's useless actually in majority of the time. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And this for me is like. You have to embrace insecurity, you know. I think this is the main thing, you know. It's like to crave for security. It's actually something you don't want to have at the end. Mm. That's a funny thing, because the most secure is the concrete box, you know, 2,000 meters under the ground. Nothing's gonna ever happen to you, but you're restricted to this environment, and that's it.
Yeah, it's a nice. We can end on that note, if you wish.
I mean, yeah, it's for me. It's to crave to be challenged, to find challenges, to basically to stay alive by responding, to stay basically active. You know, it's not. I don't know why people. I actually see two kinds of people in general. It's really black and white, and it's generalizing. But anyway. You know, you have people who do everything so they can have a certain lifestyle, and then there are people who actually have lifestyle so they can do everything. Mm. You know, and it's...
So again, comes down to how do you see it and how do you frame it around just you decide, what is given to you.
Yeah, you decide you're going to do a chair and you go and do it. Mm. Or you sketch all your life actually to sketch the perfect chair. But
yeah. I think that's a nice point to end on.
So let's go and do something. Yeah?
Let's go.